This is it guys, the new 2022 Perodua Myvi facelift, the new king. Now it gets dressed in new clothes both outside and inside, plus a whole lot more tech to keep it up to date with the Ativa. Plus, on top of that, there's a brand new transmission, a D-CVT taking place of the 480. But of course, it also gets brand new price list with prices going up per variant compared to before. So, everything you need to know about the new Myvi coming up right now. While it may not feel like it, especially with the last 2 years, it has been a full 4 years since the third generation Myvi was launched in 2017. In fact, it's 4 years almost to the day to the new version's mid-November launch. Also, before we get into it, note that this is a midlife facelift, not an all-new model, so keep your expectations in check. And in fact, as far as Perodua facelifts go, this one goes further than usual. Visually, there's a striking new look, especially with the whole new front bumper over here. There's a lot of leading lines, sharp edges for a very edgy new look compared to what we've seen before. If you look closely, there's a lot of small little lines over here, all leading to the center for a more aggressive look than before. The main grille is now much larger, extending far lower than the headlamps. This gives the Myvi a more prominent look while drawing closer to a more streamlined family design language along with the Ativa SUV. Put it side by side with the previous version, it's quite a significant visual change. Take a step back and you'll see an X theme on the front bumper, somewhat similar to the X concept shown at Klims 2018. The new cranberry red color is also similar to the show car. Exclusive to the top Myvi AV, the new paint job is much darker than the more orangey Pearl Delima red on the Ativa and appear far more exclusive than the lava red that is still available on lower Myvi variants. The headlights are brand new with a small cut-off at the inside edge. There's also a connecting chrome strip that ties it together with the new grille. Now you may be asking, if Perodua is already designing new headlamps for this facelift, why didn't they go further with it? Perhaps with slimmer units like what they did with the Beza facelift. Well, to do that with the Myvi would also require fitting new front fenders, which would be too costly for a facelift. Perodua says it has already spent around 50 million ringgit for this midlife update. Still, the designers have added more black housings inside the headlamp for them to appear slimmer than before. All new are the LED daytime running lights fitted for the very first time as standard on a Perodua. This is perhaps one of the most requested features among customers, so better late than never. And yes, the Ativa has them too, but only as part of the Blaze Gear Up body kit. However, the vertical strips are positioned on the front bumpers of the new Myvi, replacing the fog lamps entirely instead of being integrated within the full LED headlamps. At the bottom is a new front skirting finished in gloss black with a silver trim down the middle that's styled almost like an SUV's skid plate. However, together with the DRLs, these are only fitted on the 1.5H and 1.5AV variants. In comparison, the 1.3G and 1.5X models have a much cleaner looking face. To me, it kinda looks like someone who has just shaved off his beard after a really long time. A bit too young and fresh, perhaps. Onto the side, the 2022 Myvi retains the exact same wheels as before, 14 inches on lower variants and 15s on the upper models. While this may look like a strange decision for a facelift, the existing wheels already have premium touches like a dual tone look and machined finish, so it fits the facelift look just as well. It also helps that the original wheels also look very good to begin with. Another small change are the black side mirror caps, which is standard on all Myvi variants, just like on the Ativa. At the back, there's very minimal changes, just this new more chiseled and sharper look to the rear bumper. Now this matches the front look as well, but beyond that, it's pretty much the same as before. The same top spoiler, the same taillights, even the badging's exactly the same as before. Overall, the exterior facelift is quite substantial as a whole, but I guess we have to wait a little longer for a more sporty Myvi GT or SE, along with the clear tail lamps and bigger wing. Inside, again, is very familiar to what we already know from a Myvi, but this time there's a whole lot more red. As you can see from the seat over here, plus a bit more red around the aircon vents and even the new meters. A more meaningful change is the brand new steering taken from the Ativa SUV, plus a new, bigger touchscreen head unit, again with the new interface from the Ativa as well. With the red highlights on the Ativa being well received by customers, Perodua has doubled down with the new Myvi. The seats especially now have more red than black, and even the shade of red is brighter than on the SUV. It will be interesting to see if the red seat bases will stand up to wear over time. The seats are full leather on the Myvi AV, so no, you don't get the suede bits like on the Ativa. The seat belts are also plain black, not red like in the Proton Iris Active. The other red bits on the dashboard have more function to them. The original design had chrome rings around the aircon vents, but owners soon realized that they have the tendency to reflect sunlight into the driver's eyes. So now the trim pieces are finished in silver in the lower versions and red on the AV. The new red meter cluster is only on the AV2 with a sporty look that is actually quite similar to the 2011 Luggy Power Luggy Best Myvi SE. The color multi-info display is also unique to the new AV with extra controls for things like the blind spot monitor and turn signals. Other variants get a simpler set of white meters with a monochrome screen taken from the base Ativa X. Either way, the meters have gone back to the Optitron-style electroluminescent cluster, so they appear completely blacked out until turned on. The first generation Myvi already had this before being downgraded to backlit meters in the second generation facelift in 2015. However, there is still no temperature gauge to be found anywhere. The new steering is taken directly from the Ativa and it looks much better than the previous version. However, it has quite a few blank buttons on them, even on the top spec AV, which looks a bit off. The lower variants have less and less buttons too, which look really cheap. The 1.3G doesn't even have any buttons on them, in fact. As for the seats, the 1.3G and 1.5X get plain fabric upholstery with red side bolsters, while the 1.5H gets a new snakeskin-like fabric design. Another change is the key fob, now matching the Ativa. The touchscreen head unit on the 1.5H and AV now has a slightly larger 6.9-inch display and the latest control interface like the Ativa. Unfortunately, there's still no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto support, although SmartLink screen mirroring for Android is still available. However, the reverse camera is only for the AV. The X and G variants get a button-type head unit, which is fine for this price range, but the lack of Bluetooth on the G, I think, goes against all the good work Perodua has done in elevating safety standards for cars in Malaysia. Further down, the icon controls have a small update too. There's now a new off button, so users can just use that instead of pressing the fan down button repeatedly to switch the AC off. The two memory settings are still there, but you'll have to cycle through them with a single button. Another new addition is the dash cam on the top variants. Together with the solar and security window tint already fitted, means that the Myvi arrives in a perfect buy and drive condition. There's no need to spend extra cash at accessory shops anymore. Speaking of accessories, as usual, there are a few gear up add-ons available as options like leather seat covers, LED scuff plates, mesh carpeting, and even floor lighting. There are no body kits available at launch, however, those are likely to come in a few months' time. Beyond that, it's the same ultra-practical Myvi G3 interior that has made it the best-selling car in Malaysia for 4 years running. The integrated toll reader is still here, giving it an edge over the Ativa together with the anti-snatch handbag hook and handy teh tarik hooks on the seats. Interior space is also class-leading with more legroom in the back than the Ativa. Tall adults can fit in the back just fine and the backrest angle is quite comfy too. But on the other hand, most of the existing drawbacks of the Myvi cabin is still here. The rather small seats are still the same as before, and the steering wheel only adjusts for tilt, not reach. Like before, there's no center armrests and rear aircon vents either. The boot is also unchanged at 277 litres, which is respectable for the class, especially given the full-size spare tyre under the floor. Now, onto the mechanical bits. The 2022 Myvi uses the same engines as before, 1.3 and 1.5 litre dual VVTi 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engines. No turbo here, so numbers stay the same at 94 horsepower and 121 Nm for the 1.3 and 102 horsepower and 136 Nm for the 1.5. What's been completely changed is the gearbox. Number one, there's no more manual option available for the Myvi. Before you start complaining, know that out of the hundreds of thousands of Myvi G3s sold in the past 4 years, less than 1% of the customers chose the manual. Numbers do not lie, so that's the end of that. Number two, the Myvi's long-serving 4-speed automatic has been swapped out in favor of the D-CVT from the Ativa. This dual-mode continuously variable transmission is the latest gearbox technology from Daihatsu and is the world's first split-gear system. Here it has been transplanted into the existing Myvi platform, which is the first time the D-CVT has ever been fitted to a non-DNGA car. If you have doubts on CVTs in general, do know that we've tested it on the Ativa and found it to be very good in terms of response, smoothness, and even refinement. Perodua claims that with the D-CVT, the Myvi is now 5% more fuel efficient than before, with the 1.3 claimed to do up to 22.2 km per litre and the 1.5 up to 21.1 km, both increased by 1 km per litre. What's far more significant is the acceleration times, which is up to 20% better with D-CVT. The 0 to 100 times are claimed to be 11.5 seconds for the 1.3 and 10.2 seconds for the 1.5. 20% is a big upgrade no matter how you look at it. And like on the Ativa, there's also a power button on the steering wheel that gives slightly better immediate acceleration for quick overtaking maneuvers. Another aspect that's been improved is refinement. The D-CVT is said to have a gear ratio split that's comparable to an 8-speed automatic, allowing for lower engine RPM at cruising speeds. That should make highway trips more comfortable. Another minor change is the S and B driving modes in the gear lever, replacing the 3 and 2 modes from before. S is for sport, while B is for braking when going downhill. As for safety, the Myvi has now been upgraded to the latest advanced stack on the Ativa. It's actually amazing to see how quickly the Myvi safety features have been updated. Launched in late 2017 with ASA 1.0, it was then given ASA 2.0 in mid-2020. Now comes ASA 3.0. Brand new features include adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitor, and rear cross traffic alert on the AV variant. That's level 2 semi-autonomous driving on a Myvi. It's hilarious to think that the Myvi has not had any form of basic cruise control ever before, to now having full-blown ACC. The only downer is, like the Ativa, it only works between 30 and 125 km per hour, so there's no low-speed follow or traffic jam assist just yet. Other variants, except for the base model, get an upgraded ASA 3.0 too. The AEB, or Autonomous Emergency Braking function, now works at up to 120 km per hour, and it can also detect both motorcycles and bicycles. The cameras can detect cars at night too this time. Also new to the Myvi is Auto High Beam, standard on all variants, bar the base variant. There are also seatbelt reminders for all seats now, including the rear passengers. Airbag count is the same as before, 4 for lower variants and 6 for the rest. Electronic stability control is standard across the board. Now lastly, the prices. With all the enhancements and new features, it's inevitable that the Myvi would be more expensive than before. There are now 5 variants, minus the base manual of course, starting at just under 46,000 ringgit for the 1.3G. You can then add on ASA 3.0 to the 1.3G or 1.3G Plus if you will, making it just under 48,000 ringgit. A new variant, the 1.5X, goes for an even 50,000 ringgit, while the 1.5H is 54,000 ringgit. The top of the line 1.5 AV stands at 59,000 ringgit. The top 2 variants have seen their prices go up by 4,000 and 6,000 ringgit respectively, which is a big amount in this price range. Mind you, these are all prices with 0% SST, so by July 2022, we'll have the Myvi breaching the 60,000 ringgit mark. But believe it or not, that still wouldn't be the most expensive Myvi to date, as the Myvi Extreme from 2011 was already priced at around 62,000 ringgit. So that's the new 2022 Perodua Myvi facelift, again setting new standards for everybody else to follow. New looks, new tech, a brand new gearbox, and new prices. So what do you think of all this? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching and stay safe everyone.